The 2025 NFL Draft is done. It's in the books, all 7 rounds. The Browns had an interesting draft, to say the least. Some picks I really liked, a couple head scratchers, one furious about. I want to know your grade for this draft. We got analysts coming up too. We're going to break this whole thing down. Let's get to the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, the sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Chubb runs, he's to the 10, 15, he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Chubba Lubba Hub.
It's gonna be sick.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. The draft is done. All the build-up, all the mocks, all my notes. It's all over. We can talk fantasy football soon. We can talk roster build. Now there's undrafted free agents. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming up. But this draft was fascinating. Maybe the strangest draft I can remember. And that's saying something with this Browns team, going back to the Johnny Manziel one. This may have been the strangest, most emotional roller coaster. Furious, okay, settled, great, and then why? Make sure you're subscribing. Click subscribe, notifications on. Click it, share it, jump in the comments. Let me know. I want to know your Browns draft grade. We're going to know grades, of course. That's what you do, right? Give me your Cleveland Browns grade for this draft. We're going to have Lance Reisland, high school Cleveland football coach and analyst for Cleveland.com, coming up in a little bit to go over 3 different Browns draft picks. Little film review. Lance usually talks me off the edge for a couple of these and hypes me up. So we're going to break down some film with Lance. But joining me now, my old buddy, my brother from Cleveland sports writer, Matt Florjancic. He is live in God's country, Ohio. Matt, how's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty well, Andy. How are you doing today?
I'm emotionally drained, Matt. I think that's the best way to put it. That was a 3 days.
But this especially was a draining one for sure. No doubt about it.
That was a 3 days. Okay. Let's start from the top, okay? I did the live show. Matt, I don't know why I put trust in this organization ever. Silly me. I thought, I don't know if you were the same, that they were just handing the card for the best athlete, period, in this draft, Travis Hunter. That's all you had to do. Can it in. And then the trade popped up. What did you think when you saw that?
That they got us again. This is the total Brownsian move. They lead us to the water trough, and then it's empty. We had an opportunity to get a really good player. I thought we were going to get a really good player, and we traded back to draft a D tackle, which, while is needed,
I like him,
which was needed. We far and away have more needs than D tackle spot, and I just felt like we got duped once again. We had all the hope in the world, and then they Lucy the footballed us once more. We were Charlie Brown, and there went the football, and we're just like flying in the air and landing on our back, going, "They did it to us again."
That's a great analogy. Yeah, because he's the unicorn, right? He's there. Now we have to hope Travis Hunter stinks, I guess. But like they did it. They ripped it away from us. And Matt, the concerning part is not the player Mason Graham. Mason Graham fits into this defense phenomenally. Wrestler, a background. You watch the tape. He doesn't have, and I didn't think they were going to take him because metrics-wise, combine-wise, he doesn't stack up analytics as the best guy. But I think he's going to be a hell of a player for this defense, which is good, and I came around to it. But, Matt, you were the team that literally scored the fewest points per game in the NFL last year. Mason Graham ain't scoring you touchdowns.
No, not conventionally anyway. And when you're devoid of offensive talent, you're picking at the top for a reason. And I just felt like they had an opportunity to add a really good playmaker, and they chose to trade down, which initially I guess you could say makes sense because they're playing for next year, which we can get into that about what I think about punting on 2025 as a whole and going for 2026. which I'm sure we will get to at some point. But then what you do on the back half of the draft just undercuts everything that you did on the front half of it. And I think it's fair to say, and we'll probably get into this a little later too, I think it's definitely fair to say that last pick was turned in by the owner. Because if you look at Andrew Berry and you look at Kevin Stefanski, they're politely clapping but not clapping. And they look
clapping.
like somebody just stole their dog.
Yeah. Like it's perplexing. You need to score touchdowns. You get Mason Graham. Now you put him beside Myles Garrett. Great pairing. So I slept on that one, Matt, and I thought, okay, you get a first-round pick next year. Everyone lauding the Browns, right? I'm wearing the draft day shirt. Everyone saying, oh, this is a Sonny Weaver Jr. pick for Andrew Berry. The difference is that Sonny Weaver Jr. duped everybody and then got the picks he wanted, and it all worked out in the end. Andrew Berry is great at getting picks, but he forgets. I don't think he finished watching the movie Draft Day because he always forgets like the good part, right? He always forgets getting all the stuff back and getting the picks and winning.
See, that's the problem. They're really good at acquiring picks, and the analytics model is really great for that. But what in the world gives us confidence that going into next year they're going to get it right? They refuse to make top picks. They trade back, and then when they do, they seemingly take luxury picks as if this team has luxuries to spend when they clearly do not. And that's probably the biggest reason I was frustrated with Graham's pick. D-tackle was a luxury pick in the top 5. And it wasn't a need. They needed other talent. And to come away with a D-tackle just felt like a punch in the gut to the fan base, because you're basically saying, we're punting on 2025. Give us all your money in season tickets. Give us all your money in merch. And then we're going to draft a kid that's going to maybe impact the game 30% of the time. I mean, how much realistically, unless he turns into the run stuffer of all run stuffers, it's a pick that, you know, he's always, right or wrong, he's always going to be judged against Travis Hunter and what Hunter does. And it's a really hard comparison to live up to when that guy's scoring touchdowns and you're stopping a play after a 4-yard gain.
Right. Exactly. And it's being compared to when the Browns could have had Julio Jones traded down and took Phil Taylor. Now, I met Phil Taylor. He's a nice guy. I got his autograph on that ball back there, Matt. Mason Graham is better than Phil Taylor, okay? And Phil Taylor was a decent player. Mason Graham's going to be better than that. But the point was, Julio Jones went on and scored touchdowns and changed games for over a decade. Phil Taylor did not. Travis Hunter could do the same thing. Mason Graham, like you said, is he stuffing a run? Is he penetrating? He could create, and I think he will have a good impact on this defense, but it's not the same. It's not what you needed. Like you said, it's a luxury pick. And that's where I think the frustration for Browns fans came in. What are we going to be watching? Still, the top offensive talent on this team is what, Jerry Jeudy and then David Njoku, right? As far as proven guys.
Yeah, as far as proven guys go, they're a short commodity in the Cleveland Browns locker room. And I just wonder, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for those meetings with Joel Bitonio and Myles Garrett to convince one to come back for one more year and not retire, and one to rescind his trade. Well, we know what did it for that. There's 100+ million reasons why that request got rescinded. That makes sense, but I feel sorry for guys like Joel Bitonio who put their faith in his front office to once again be let down. Because that's what it felt like to me, is that you're punting on 2025 because you're guaranteed your job. But at what point are these guys' feet going to be held to the fire and they're going to have to make a pick that's going to deliver on game day? We go back to the impact players that are on this team. None of them were drafted by this regime.
Nope.
They were drafted by John Dorsey. And that is a major problem. They have had probably 5 to 6 dozen draft picks by now. And for a while there, Andrew Berry was allergic to cutting any of his draft picks because he wanted to prove that he was the smartest guy in the room. And now we're seeing it that he just can't do it. It's just whatever the analytics model is spitting out needs to be taken out back behind the facility and disposed of with a sledgehammer.
Yes. Break the computer. Like in the old Office Space movie, right? You get the old printer, get the bats to it, to like put the boots to it.
Bats, sledgehammer, it doesn't matter. Break that daggum algorithm.
Break
and get the heck out of Cleveland. I saw Paul DePodesta. He's not just a name. I saw him in the draft room.
Flew in.
He wasn't, but he was there, so we know he exists.
He flew in from La Jolla, California. How nice of him to fly in to see firsthand. They love, you're like, right, Matt, they love collecting their picks, but they can't pick it. And they got, speaking of Pickett, they got damn Kenny Pickett too. Great. We'll get to the quarterback room because
that room is an absolute train wreck right now.
I don't know what's going on in that room. Let's put a pin on that for a sec. Okay. We get out of day one. Mason Graham, I wake up Friday. Okay. I can see the Mason Graham in with Myles Garrett on the defense. All right. You got a future 1, extra 2. You need, all right. I don't like it. I wanted Hunter, but I can wrap my head around it. Then we go to round 2. And the first player that pops up, Matt, at 33, to be quite honest, is a linebacker. I never heard of him in my life. Carson Schlesinger. Now, I did some homework on him after. Browns are typically allergic to linebackers, so I did no draft research on linebackers. I looked. Guy led the league in college football in tackles at linebacker, whatever. 0-star recruit, overcomer. I dig it. Looks like a good player. What was your reaction to 33 when they went, after still not having any improvement on offense and can't score points, going defense again?
Initially, I hated it, but then I realized that it's a telling pick without telling anything.
Yeah,
JOK's done. JOK's not coming back, at least not this year. I think at this point you consider him done until he proves you otherwise. But I think that pick was, at first I thought, why are they doing this? What are they doing? And then I'm like, all right, this one actually made sense because they're devoid of talent at linebacker and they need to restock that shelf. And JOK cannot be counted on. I love him as a player. I think he's a great human as well. But that neck injury that he has, it's going to be very difficult for him to come back. And I think that's exactly why they got a high motor overcomer that can make plays. And I didn't hate it as much after about 20 minutes of thinking about it that I did when it initially happened.
Me too. And that was something where that was where my head went as well. Where it was like, man, why did you make that pick? And then, like you said, it jumped in like, oh, JOK's not back. Ironically, Matt, JOK was Andrew Berry's best draft pick. Really?
There's no question about that. I literally, my wife can attest to this. She has never seen me react positively to a Browns draft pick before, well, mainly because I was working the drafts on site. But when JOK was drafted, we were all home. And I literally leapt out of my chair when they made that pick. And I was practically dancing. I was like doing a touchdown dance if I ever had one. Because I'm like, we got a player. We got an electric linebacker that we haven't had a good playmaking linebacker in this town probably since the Kosar era. We had a lot of guys that could make plays down the field, but at or behind the line of scrimmage, we hadn't had those. So I was ecstatic to get a guy like JOK, and I hope for his sake at this point, whatever football comes. But for him, I hope it's a lifestyle thing where he's able to live a very fulfilling life outside of football, because I just don't see it happening on the football field again. And to be honest with you, nor do I want to. I don't want to see him risk his health again. When you start talking head, neck, and back, it's one thing if your knees are shot, you've got to get knee replacements. You can't replace your neck. You can't replace your head.
No.
I would just assume for his sake that he seeks other shores. And I hope for his sake that he's able to find something that's fulfilling for him, because he is a good person.
Talking NFL draft and what the Browns did with Matt Florjancic, a Cleveland sports writer, award-winning Cleveland sports writer, multi-time award-winning, by the way. I know you don't like to toot your own horn, my friend, but I'll toot it for you.
Thanks. You and my wife are my advocates, like I'm Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar here.
Yes, that's right. So, all right, we get Schlesinger. It's like, well, okay. Again, after you're like, all right, try to wrap your head around it, fine. Then we get to the next pick at 36, and hallelujah, I put out the reaction video, Matt. Something to cheer about for Browns fans right off the bat. They got a Buckeye. Quinshon Judkins, running back, the Ohio State. What did you think when we saw that one?
I jumped up out of my chair and started touchdown dancing.
I was fist pumping.
I was looking at it, and I was like, they could go Henderson, they could go Judkins, but I really like Judkins because Henderson's been hurt a lot throughout his Ohio State career. He's a hoss. I mean, he is a big body back. Judkins is not a big body back. He's not going to be carrying 240 pounds coming through that line, full head of steam at 6'1". He doesn't have that body type. But this kid can play. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run the ball out of the backfield. He has great vision. He has fast twitch muscles. He can cut on a dime. I was out of my mind excited. And I think I actually told my wife, I said, I haven't been this excited since they took JOK, because I believe that he is an impactful player for an offense that is devoid of impactful players. And they definitely need it. And I think they're going to get it with Judkins.
I love it because, like you said, he can catch, he can run, fast, powerful. Stefanski said when they were on the call, wants him to run violent, and that's what he can do. And that's
not going to be a problem for him. If you watch his game film throughout the college football playoffs, he can do that. He can be violent with his running style, and that's what they need. They're going to need something offensively because, yikes, outside of the running back spot, so there's a lot of work to do here.
A little dicey. But if we're going back to the Stefanski offense, it was nice to see, all right, the front office, it seemed like the brains of the front office connected with what is supposed to be on the field. You need a power running game. And Nick Chubb, we hope he comes back in some capacity, but he's not going to be the same guy. This could be that Nick Chubb type role coming in. You got Jerome Ford. So we're all pumped about Quinshon Judkins. And that's you get 2 second-round picks. Okay. So, you got a defender, you got your running back. Beautiful. Third round comes up, and this is another one, Matt, where I was very excited. We got the complimentary second tight end because, again, front office connecting with you need tight end. You just had Njoku and some guy, Blake Whiteheart. You needed another playmaking tight end. And they went and got Harold Fannin Jr. And, Matt, I started watching highlights. Ooh, boy, this guy's hurt. He looks like a mini Njoku. He's hurdling people. He's juking. He's dancing. He's stiff arming. He's going. He's catching. He looks phenomenal. And talent-wise, offensively, this guy looks like a plug and play. And you put him in Njoku, that's another pick I'm excited about the offense. So I was quite pleased. What do you think?
No question about it. I didn't think he was going to last till the Browns picked.
Me neither.
I was like, you know what? I love this pick. I think tight end depth has been a question for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They've been David Njoku and the boys, basically. It's like a bad boy band name, but they really had nobody else. And Fannin he answers the bell on so many levels. He's physical. He can catch the ball. He can run block. He can pass block. Like, this is a guy that is needed in all facets, and he's going to get some time to play early. There's no question about it.
He's from Canton too, isn't he?
He has to play.
He's from Ohio, too. He's from Canton, I think, right?
Yeah, he's right up the road in Canton.
Yeah.
He went to Bowling Green. He's an Ohio kid. He understands what football means in this part of the world, and as you call it, God's country.
That's right.
So that's good. I mean, he's going to have an opportunity to shine in front of the hometown crowd, and I can't wait to see what he can do. I think he could be a guy like we all thought Farrell Brown was going to be. Farrell Brown, another local kid, big-bodied kid. Looked like he played power forward in the NBA. Just a beautiful specimen when you carve a tight end out and create a wrestler for a WWE game, But never really panned out. But Fannin, I think, has a lot of possibilities there with us in this offense, and I'm happy to see it. And, an offense that likes to run 2 tight ends a lot, if we go back to that with Kevin Stefanski, I think he's a perfect fit. Yeah,
I think that's great. You add another veteran there, and then you get the Whiteheart, whatever, and I think we're cooking on tight end. So we're feeling good. Those 2 tight ends, especially since we didn't add a wide receiver, Fannin Jr. pick becomes even more important. That becomes even more important because now we got Judkins, you got Fannin, you have Njoku, so we're feeling good. Feeling positive, Matt. It's like, okay, I'm getting around this draft. We're cooking with points, and then the next 3rd round pick, I'm like, is it a safety, wide receiver, offensive line? And Matt, then my head exploded. And I'll tell you this. Let me take you through my timeline. I hated and was dreading that the Browns were going to take Jalen Milroe, right? I said on the show, say no for Milroe. The Seahawks leapfrogged the Browns. They took Milroe. I was cheering. I'm like, yes, this is great. This is great. Now you build out. Matt, careful what you wish for, because they took someone worse than Jalen Milroe. At least Milroe could maybe be put in for a package and run. You got the generously listed 5'11" skinny Hawaiian quarterback, Dillon Gabriel. My jaw hit the floor and my head exploded. The draft grade on this guy, Matt, was 6th or 7th round or undrafted. A 3rd round pick on it. Unacceptable, inexcusable, and just perplexing. What went through your mind?
How to put this delicately? On an island full of large Polynesian human beings, you find the smallest guy that plays quarterback, and you go, and he's listed as 5'11", which means that's probably in
he ain't.
So he's probably closer to 5'9.5".
Yeah.
He puts up good numbers. I can't deny that. He has a lot of good numbers. He's had good productivity in his career.
So did Cody Kessler. Colt McCoy. Lots of college guys do.
If I had a mic, I would drop it right now. I don't have anything. I mean, Colt McCoy had like one of the best college careers ever.
Ever.
A better one, and none of those panned out. But like we got the skinny kid who is. I don't even really know how his game translates. I think you put it best. He's a CFL quarterback in an NFL quarterback's room right now. I think his game perfectly translates to that level, but
me too.
To jump and take him in the 3rd round when he had such a low grade, again, the analytics model is a question mark for me. I have no idea what was in that model that said that was a good move, but again, burn the spreadsheets, because that was a bad move. And then you compound it with what you do later on day 3, and we'll get to that in a minute. I'm not putting the cart too far before the horse here, but yeah, it just made no sense. It was another luxury pick for the sake of making a pick, and it made no sense when you had other needs to address. You didn't take an offensive lineman in this draft.
No.
How do you go through this draft without an offensive lineman or a defensive in the secondary, a safety?
Who's playing safety? Grant Delpit, and I love Ronnie Hickman. Go Buckeyes. But there's no depth. You got an undrafted Ronnie Hickman and Grant Delpit. When you have in the 3rd round, you can get starting caliber players, or at least guys who should be at position groups. Impact players still in the 3rd round. This is like the NHL or Major League Baseball, where you have to wait a couple years to see your prospects. You're in the 3rd round, you're going to play. And that's a position that you could have gotten. Like we said, safety, tackle, wide receiver. Still great players on the board. You chose none of them and took them. And then they come back, and Matt, and they say, oh, we spent a lot of time with Dillon Gabriel. Great kid. Matt, me and you are great kids. We shouldn't be playing quarterback. I'll take your side. I'll take your height over Dillon Gabriel. I think I'm bigger than Dillon Gabriel. Good job.
I just had a physical the other day, and I measured out at 6'2", 200.
Come on, man. You're pro ready.
So
pro ready.
I'm the analytics model right there. I just got a few more miles on me.
No, Matt. You know what? No, you're not quick enough. Maybe you didn't play in warm enough weather. No, we don't like that. We don't like big quarterbacks here. Silly. That's too tall. We don't like that. No. We want skinny, short guys under 200 pounds and under 6 feet. That's what we need. Why in the 3rd round? Just drove me bananas. That's the one I can't get over. Everything else in the draft, I can wrap my head around. That's the one I can't get over and is just stupid. And then the horrifying bit clicked into me, Matt. We got that extra 1st round pick. This regime evaluates quarterbacks. The only 2 quarterbacks they've drafted. DTR, fun guy, scored 1 touchdown in the NFL, threw for one passing touchdown. Beat Pittsburgh. Good. Love it. But threw for 1 passing touchdown. And Dillon Gabriel, who doesn't belong in the NFL, and will be going north of the border if he wants to continue his football professional career. Those are the qualifications that this front office says they want for quarterback. And we expect them to pick our franchise quarterback next year? Our 4 Browns fans should be horrified, no?
No question about it. There's no chance that they should be drafting this quarterback. They should not have been drafting this year's class.
No.
but that's a whole different ballgame. The problem is it doesn't really matter the GM or the coach. They're just plug and play names at this point.
You're right.
The guy running the show and the computer nerd that runs the show behind the scenes, the wizard, Mr. Wizard, they're just combining to make pick after pick that goes south faster and faster every year.
I don't get it.
Yeah, until somebody can put Haslam in his place and get him to stand back, and then DePodesta is gone from the organization, I have a feeling that nothing's going to change, Andy. I hate to say it because I love football and I love watching good football, but I haven't seen good football in quite a while. I mean,
we see spurts.
They orchestrated 1-31, 0-16, and realistically 3-14 last year on the heels, or rather, kind of preceding what could be another single-digit win season. And they still have jobs. No other NFL team runs like this.
Insane.
And that's a problem.
And this guy Barry trained under Howie Roseman. How do the Eagles drafts go? Every year sensational, including this year. Every year. Tremendous picks. Keep it simple. How about the stupid Squealers and Ravens? What do, Matt? They have boring drafts. They have boring drafts that produce great players that keep them churning and winning. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Yeah, the Steelers did not have a boring draft. If you're an Ohio State fan, you got to look east, my friend, because they are, once again, stacking the cover with Buckeyes. They love drafting Buckeyes. They're good at developing them, and they're good at turning them into all-pros. And I would expect
because they're great players.
I would expect that Jack Sawyer is going to be a Pro Bowl caliber player in that defense sooner rather than later. They got a great
with TJ Watt.
He is going to be a terror in the AFC North. Good luck blocking him with the likes of DeJuan Jones.
Or Cornelius Lucas. Don't worry, Matt. We got Cornelius to help. We're fine. You got Sawyer and TJ Watt. What broke my heart again, and Matt, I knew it would happen. You took the miniature Hawaiian noodle arm lefty who's under 6 feet. You took him instead of the guy who beat his ass in the playoffs, overcame, marched, took the team on his back, and won the damn thing.
Yeah.
Will Howard is a Steeler. My biggest fear came true. And now, look, their offense has stunk. Arthur Smith, I don't trust as an offensive coordinator. But, Matt, this has the makings of Will Howard haunting this Browns team again. And all you had to do was turn in the card at any point. At any point. You could have done it in the 5th round, 4th round, 3rd round. Could have done it. Didn't. You took Mini Gabriel, who's not going to play. He's not going to play. Matt, look at this quarterback group. He might get cut.
There's no chance he ever takes a snap in a game unless we're that injured.
Which could happen.
Behind
this we've seen.
Line. I mean, brother, this offensive line is not good. And
we've seen the injuries.
I mean, the interior is not bad. They're good. They're solid, but they're also old.
Well, they are.
They're all aging faster and faster every year, and there's no bookends. So where are you bringing the heat from? Right off the ends. And what's that going to do? That's going to get a quarterback blindside crushed.
Sure is.
That's probably why you'll see Gabriel on the roster. I think he'll compete in camp for that last roster spot. He'll be on the practice squad, but I could see Watson going to the PUP list, because there's no chance that he can play before November, I would think.
No. And you get the salary cap medical break too.
And in any case, if he does play, you punish yourself. So with the insurance claim, so you don't want him to play.
No.
I would say it's probably Flacco beating out Kenny Pickett, because I don't think Kenny Pickett can win this job. And then
Pickett
it's
sucks.
probably going to be who you took in the 5th round as your number 2.
Shedeur, we got Lance Reisland on the line. We're going to bring him in a moment. But then we took Dylan Sampson. Again, great running back, but a luxury pick when you needed a safety or an OL or a receiver. And again, I like it. You want to go running back, you want to go heavy, you want these guys who can spread out, that's fine. So I don't hate the player itself, and I could live with it if you made a better selection with that Dillon Gabriel wasted pick. That you might as well throw that in Lake Erie. That makes no sense, that pick. So you have that, and you take a running back, and if you would have taken a safety and then him, all right, I'd be fine. But Dylan Sampson, like, who's is Jerome Ford going to be on this roster, Matt? Is it Nick Chubb get brought back? Does Nick Chubb not get brought back?
No, we've seen the last of Nick Chubb in a
row.
That kills me because he's arguably, other than Clay Matthews, the original Clay Matthews for the Browns, I don't think I've ever had more passion for supporting a player than I have Nick Chubb.
Got the rookie card right there.
He's
right there.
A solid community dude. He goes home. He studies film. He plays around with his dog. He doesn't get into trouble. He shows up on game day. He's an absolute terror. And then 5 minutes after, he says 5 words. Like he just goes about his business the right way. He's as professional as a professional can get. And
I hate that.
It kills me to say it, but I think he's done as a Brown. I think you go with Ford as your veteran presence, then you go with Sampson
Judkins.
And then Judkins, not in that order, but just
as
in
the one.
Committee. I think you go as a running back by committee. I think Judkins probably should get the most carries because he's the most productive out of the 3. But I think it'll be, I mean, shoot, at this point with the tight ends and the running backs they have and no depth at wide receiver, if they had any kind of offensive line, we'd be running a wing T.
Pretty much. Teams are going to be crowding the line. They're going to be crowding the line, that's for sure. So you got that. And then the final pick, Shedeur Sanders, which I'm like, after that prank call, I saw that was cruel and mean. And then I started feeling sorry for the guy. I was like, all right, somebody draft him. Somebody draft him. That was cruel, unnecessary. People hate on him because he was born into a rich father. Get out of here. That's jealousy. Now, did he need to be humbled a bit? I think so. And you saw, Matt, him and Dion on the video on the phone, Dion saying thank you like 3 times. Those guys were humbled. I think maybe they needed that coming in. And you know what? This could be a dark horse. He's a Cleveland Brown now, so I'm rooting my ass off for him. Shedeur Sanders could be a bit of a dark horse for us.
Truth be told, I think he's starting at least a 4th of this season, if not more, based on productivity and injuries. He has to see the field.
Yeah. He's day one ready. He's not going to start day one, I don't think. But he's ready to go.
But I wouldn't rule it out. And truth be told, that was definitely an ownership pick. You look at the reactions that they had in that draft room. That was somebody coming from on high saying, we need to take this kid. He's going to make us so much better. And he may. He very well may. But he's throwing to the likes of you, me, and whoever we can pull off out of the parking lot right now.
Yeah. So Shedeur Sanders finished it off. They traded the other picks, the 4 6s they had, and moved around and up and down and sideways and all that. So they got Shedeur, and that's the draft. Producer Shane, if you can pull up the graphic, show a little picture of there they are. The guy at the top is the one we don't want. Get him out of there. Put a safety in there instead. Then I could get behind it. In any case, that's your 2025 Cleveland Browns draft class. Now, a gentleman who comes on this show often to help break down film with us and really, Matt, helps us kind of answer questions and say, okay, what are the positives and negatives about some of these players? Cleveland high school football coach and analyst for Cleveland.com, our buddy Lance Reisland on the line. Lance.
Hey, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me. Sorry about the delay there. Appreciate you having me again.
Oh, no problem, buddy. No problem. You're on with Matt Florjancic, Cleveland sports writer, one of my best buds. We're post-draft here, buddy. Lance, just overall, we're asking grades. Before we get into the draft, what's your grade for this Browns draft?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I never grade a draft until I see them play. So, in terms of I like some of the things they did. I also am a little bit higher on certain people than most. I do understand, as compared to sometimes, though, I do understand people's concern about some of the picks. I think they're solid. I think it tells you, for me, it tells me 2 things about the Browns. One, it tells me that they want to be physical in the run game and stopping the run. So if you look at Graham, Junkins, and Schweizinger, who were picked, those are physical guys. Now, I'd like to see that in practice because I don't see a lot of physicality when I go to practice. So I would like to see that. That's just the coach in me, but we'll see what happens there. I'm not as anti Dillon Gabriel as everyone else. I was just on a podcast earlier today, this morning, real early, just because of the fact of production, right? And if you look at what the Browns did, they drafted 4 guys who were their conference's MVPs. They do a lot with traits especially rounds 4 through 7. So I like the idea that whether you like it or not, I like guys. I try to stick to the film, and I like guys who produce, not guys who are physical freaks. Now, those guys who are physical freaks and produce, those are even better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But guys like Dillon Gabriel, I have to say this, right? He's a guy who threw for 18,722 yards, 155 touchdowns. Now, will he be successful at the NFL? I don't know. But a scheme, if Kevin Stefanski's going back to his scheme, and it tells me that because they didn't get a receiver. And the receiving core is really struggling. But it tells me they're a little bit higher in Tillman than maybe most of us are. And they're really obviously Jerry Jeudy. Now, what Stefanski likes to do is he likes to get in that 12 personnel, and he likes to dictate what people are putting in defensively. So if you put in nickel, he's going to run the ball. If he puts in, regular personnel, they're going to try to create some matchups. So all that being said, we don't even know if they're really going back to Stefanski's offense. That's just kind of the thought process, right? So for me, the best, I've been asked, did you like Travion Henderson or Junkins better? Well, Henderson was number 1 on my board, but for what the Browns are trying to do and where they're at, Henderson's going to give you a home run, but they need that back to get singles. And what I mean by that, 2nd 6 is a big indicator, and it allows you to dictate the pace as an offensive coordinator, and it protects that quarterback because they're not getting into these exotic looks in both fronts and coverage. So I think that, I think maybe because the quarterback position, regardless of who it is, it's going to be an older guy who has some limitations or a younger guy who doesn't really know what's going on. How, when you think about what those guys do, I think Sanders is a perfect fit. In fact, I had him as my top quarterback because of his anticipation and accuracy. Now, a guy like Dillon Gabriel has played a ton of football, and even though he's smaller, he does really good job. If you break down the film of throwing through lanes, he can also throw the boot and waggle, which Kevins likes to run early down. And he gets the one thing, if I would say something I think everybody would like, is that he gets rid of the football. He does not take sacks, which I think is big when you're going to struggle. Make no mistakes. I think that they're going to have to play close to the best and protect that defense because offensively they're not going to be outstanding, and that's just the way it goes. However, the offensive line will be better when they're running Stefanski stuff because that's what those guys do well. Those guards pull very well. They're very good on double teams. They're going to have to help those tackles and pass protection. But yeah, I thought the draft was pretty solid. The Shedeur Sanders thing is interesting to me because did he have that much value? But you decided that you were taking Dillon Gabriel when they were both there. So that tells me, the thought process, right? Now the Schwarzenegger pick, I like the Luther Burden at 33, but the more you break down film, two things. One is a positive, right? He's a guy who's a tackling machine. What is going on with JOK? That'll be something interesting because that's a high level pick. That's a lot of value for a guy who has only started 1 year. Obviously really good, pulls the trigger downhill, love what he does physically. But for me, that's more of a concern on JOK. So again, everybody's concerns are obviously my concerns as well. The big issue has been Dillon Gabriel. I'm going to give him a chance because I always try to stick to the film. Everybody's concerns, I agree with those. And that might be the reason he's not even on the roster. But there are guys who are outliers. And once in a while, you get an outlier. And I had him higher than everybody else. So no matter what anybody says to me, they're not wrong. He's undersized.
Until they play.
Correct. So for me, I just try to stick to it. His production, that's the one thing there are two things that this draft showed me. One is they're going to try to get tougher and go back to running the ball and stopping the run. The other was they went really, really high on production over potential, which I think is not always a bad thing. Obviously, you got to have some potential for improvement, but you also got to make plays on film. When you watch Siaki Ika on film at Baylor, he didn't make a lot of plays. And I know he's a big body who can run, but that's kind of the thought process. These guys all make plays. Can they do it at the NFL level? Like everybody else, I'll be watching too. So that was my thought on draft. I thought it was pretty solid. Would I have liked, everybody says, where would you have gone with the 94th? I would have went Xavier Watts because I think that's safety.
Yes.
And I had Billy Bowman a lot higher than most just because of his ability to play that one high hat.
Yeah, you like Billy, yeah.
So besides that, I thought Fannin was a solid pick. I thought Mason Graham was a really solid pick at that 3 technique. I thought the loss of Dalvin Thompson was a lot bigger than people thought. So pretty solid draft. I think the concerns, I was listening to you guys earlier. I think those concerns are very valid. So we'll see what happens.
Matt, and I'll get quick thought from both of you on the makeup of this quarterback room because this is where my head is confused. So, Matt, this quarterback room right now has Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. all four are not going to be on the roster. So how does this makeup look to you? Does this make sense? Who are going to be the three quarterbacks come opening day?
Yeah, I think Flacco probably wins the job. Pickett probably doesn't make the roster. I would think Shedeur Sanders could beat out Dillon Gabriel for that backup role, and then Gabriel is your practice squad quarterback. That would be how I would break it down. But ultimately, we'll see what what training camp and the preseason are all about with when these guys actually get the opportunity to play. I think both rookies will be involved heavily because you don't take them to cut them.
Especially that high, a third-round pick. Lance, what's his quarterback room going to look like?
I'm on board. I think you hit it right on the head. I think Pickett's the odd guy out. Now, what I think Flacco does, because Flacco played here, I think he played in Stefanski's scheme, not the scheme last year, is that he's going to allow these guys not to have to do so many walkthroughs. And I tell everybody all the time, when you get guys who are within your system, it allows you to be, you don't have to go through that whole process of installing the play with everybody, going through the walkthroughs. These guys have run these plays. Flacco has run these plays in game. So that should help not only him, but everybody else. I think Pickett's the odd man out. I think the competition between Sanders and Dillon, that's interesting to me because I really like Dillon Gabriel more than most, but Sanders was my number one quarterback on the board. So I would not be shocked if the issue with Sanders that everybody has is something that I don't really agree with. He's a kid and he likes to do TikTok and he likes to do things. Okay. Does he come to practice on time? Is he the first one in the building? Does he the last one to leave? Is he a good teammate? Does he have
he doesn't commit crimes?
Yeah.
He keeps his nose clean.
So if he, the idea of, you're mad because he's Deion kid, that just doesn't sit well with me. I do think Dillon Gabriel now, when you think about like a guy who would be a good practice squad guy, Dillon Gabriel might be that as well, because of the fact when you're a scout team guy, you're the other quarterback. And he can throw the ball. He can move his feet if they face a running quarterback. So there's a lot of value. And obviously, like I said, it's different. It's weird because I like Sanders more than I like Gabriel, but they took Gabriel when they had a chance to take both. So we'll see how that plays out. And for me, they got to be more physical at practice, regardless who it is. I think that's a lot has to do with their slow starts. Is when you go out and watch them practice, they're highly organized, but there's not a lot of chippiness and there's not a lot of competition. I think that needs to improve as they move forward.
And if Dillon Gabriel, third string practice squad, that's a third-round pick value that you took. It's not so much the guy. If you took him in the seventh round, I don't care. Took him in the third. That's what bugs me. But let's get back to positive. Lance, let's bring up, and this is a player Matt and I talked about, like when they said the name Carson Schlesinger, I'm like, who the heck's that? I knew literally not the name. Okay, I did not know the name. You do. Shane, bring up the footage if you could, and Lance, talk us through why should Browns fans be excited about Carson Schlesinger?
So as you watch the play, you're going to see it's just a zone play, and you're going to see the backside, the right guard is going to try to read Schlesinger. Now, the one thing he does really good as a big guy is you're going to see as he gets to the hole, he turns that left shoulder. And as my dad, who was a defensive coordinator for 40-plus years, linebackers, when they get in the gap, they got to learn to get skinny. And he does a really nice job of getting skinny. And what that means is he's not giving a lot of surface area for that guy to block. And his instincts allow him to play fast. And I've said it before, if your mind is thinking, your feet aren't moving. And that is what makes guys play slow. So if you look at JOK, who also has great foot speed, but what JOK does is he diagnoses what he sees and he pulls the trigger. And that's what allows you to play fast. And that's what I see out of Schlesinger is he pulls the trigger. He believes in what he sees. He gets in the hole. He's tough to block in the hole. He's a really sure tackler. And it tells me, again, they're trying to improve that middle of that defense in the run game. So they're trying to win on first down so they can get in these exotic looks on second, third down to rush the passer and create the matchups they want to get. So I really, I thought just because of the need at receiver and the need at tight end and the need at other places. But once again, if you don't know what JOK, if he's okay, then who was playing linebacker, right? Yeah, so I don't know if they really had a high grade on him. I did not have as high a grade on him as obviously as they did. I love Jeffrey Bossa out of Oregon. I thought he was a great scheme fit for the Browns. But this guy is really good. He's athletic. He's bigger than I thought. He runs pretty well, but he's very, very instinctual. I'm not saying he's as good as JOK, but he will give you those JOK vibes in terms of diagnosing a play and just going. You'll see a lot of them. He really goes when he sees when he believes in what he sees, right or wrong, and goes.
Right. And so Matt, that really stockpiles them. You got Graham, you got Schlesinger right up the middle. That's got to be one of the problems with this Browns defense has been sure tackling. So it looks like maybe we get that.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you needed to shore it up for sure because defensively, if you can't tackle, you shouldn't be on the field. And we definitely see that with the linebacker that they took and with Graham as well. And you just hope that there's enough talent around them to make a to allow those guys to make a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And let's look
Absolutely.
at Quinshon Judkins now. Matt and I were going over him before, Lance. We're fans. We're Buckeye fans. This guy looks like the real deal, but Shane, pull it up. Let's look at the OHIO. Take us through it, Lance.
So this is kind of just a one-back power. I'm not sure what Atkins run defense. The one-back power, you're going to see the right guard pull. And the thing I like about Judkins is that I actually had Judkins below Henderson, but for where the Browns are at offensively and where they're at quarterback position, I think Judkins makes a lot of sense. They're both very, very good, and I don't think Henderson is that much better than Judkins. But what Judkins will give you, in my opinion, he's going to get you to 2nd 6. And the Browns quarterback position where they're at, 2nd 6 means a lot, right? Because then you're going to get regular personnel, you're going to get a base front, and you're going to get more of a base coverage. And that's where a lot of those turnovers come for a quarterback is when a team beats you on first down, kicks your butt on first down, now you're 2nd 10. Now they go nickel. Now they're doing the exotic looks, these sim pressures. They're doing all kinds of stuff that make it, quarterbacks can decipher it. Elite quarterbacks. And I'm not sure the Browns have an elite quarterback on their roster. And the guys who might be elite are going to be rookies. So I think it's important that they win on first down. And Judkins is really that guy. He finishes runs. He's violent. And then you see him run at the combine. He's very fast. So obviously, and then with, I'm a big believer in tread on the tires with running backs. And he doesn't have a lot of tread that he's had to get rid of in his time, right, at Ole Miss and then splitting time with Henderson. So I thought it was a great pick. I had Henderson over Genty just because Genty's a violent runner, and that doesn't last very long in the NFL with those big guys. So I think Judkins was a great pick. I think he's a guy, once again, like I said, he's a workhorse. He's got a lot of tread left on his tires, and he gets the offense. If you want to help a quarterback, whoever that quarterback is, make it be 2nd 5, 2nd 6, and at least you're going to see. It doesn't mean automatic success. It just means you're going to see more of a base defense will help you as a play caller and as a quarterback.
Yeah, you got more options. And Matt, like you were saying earlier, Judkins more durable than Henderson, right?
Yeah, Henderson had a lot of dings on his record at Ohio State. He played hard and he tried to play through stuff, but if you're already injured in college and it's a lower body injury, that's only going to get magnified when you get to the pros. So I wish him the best of luck in New England. I think he's going to do well in a Mike Vrabel system. Mike Vrabel obviously knows him quite well, so that felt like a perfect fit. But I'm glad the Browns got the back that they did. I think they did well with Judkins for sure. Yeah.
And finally, Lance, we'll look at Harold Fannin Jr. This is a position that the Browns desperately needed to address with it, especially if you're going back to the Stefanski system. They like the 12 personnel. You need that other dynamic tight end. And Harold Fannin Jr. seems to check all the boxes. Let's pull up the film there, Shane. And Lance, take us through Harold Fannin Jr.
Well, it's against, 2 of his best games were Texas A&M and Penn State. And you're going to see he runs a corner route. And what he does really, really well is that he runs after catch. Now, the Browns don't have that at receiver right now. And if you don't have that at receiver, you got to have guys. The Browns right now on offense, they have to be really good at a lot. You see him over the middle of the field. He does a really nice job in the middle of the field. He creates elite separation. And then he's a really good seam runner. And if Flacco is the starting quarterback, Flacco throws the seam very, very well, especially against those one high hat safeties. Very tough. The kind of the MO is that he's not tough blocker. Well, I just think he's going to do it. A lot of blocking is 1-2, and he has 1-2. But I'm a big believer. And once again, I always go back to my dad who passed last year, and his thoughts always stick with me as a coach. And don't draft a guy for what he doesn't do well. Draft a guy for what he does well. Work on, he's got to work on his blocking. But Fannon's being brought in. Don't put him in line then, right? If you draft a guy, let him do what he does best. And what Fannin will do, I think Judkins is huge because now Judkins gets you to 2nd 6. Now in 2nd 6, you go 12 personnel. Now defense has to decide if they go regular 3 linebackers or do they go nickel. And if you go nickel, you run the ball. If you go regular, you throw it. And then you create those matchups that Stefanski likes to run in both 2x2 and 3x2 and 3x1 and empty, all those kind of different things and I think Stefanski's a pretty good play designer, especially when it's his style, right? When his scheme, he does a pretty nice job, in my opinion. So I think the Judkins was the crucial pick, but then Fannin also tells me that they're going to be in 12 personnel. It tells me they have a little bit more faith in Tillman than maybe I do. And then they have a lot. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy is a star, so that's kind of the thought process. You get to second, you get the second and 6 as much as you can. You go 12, you create matchups, and then you find those tight ends against linebackers and safeties.
Get those little mismatches. And Matt, this is a case where you can Njoku and Fannin Jr. are playmakers, so you can send both downfield almost as sub wide receivers, right? So you have downfield. You don't have to have the line of scrimmage covered that way. And the way Fannin was moved with that footwork, a little hurdle too. Oof. I'm liking that. Him and Njoku combo looks pretty sweet, eh?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what they can do together. I think they're a unique mix. They don't do everything the same way, but they have similar athleticism that allows them to take advantage of their body types. And a good route runner at tight end is gold in the National Football League. And I think Fannin is a pretty solid route runner from what I've seen on film. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with a guy like Flacco, who presumably, if he is the starter, I think that could be a nice combination for sure.
Yeah. And Lance, finally with you, Dylan Sampson. I love the player. Again, seems sort of like a bit of a weird luxury pick for the Browns when they had other positions needed, but I'm less mad about that one than the extra quarterback. But Sampson seems like a playmaker. How does he fit in? Because we got Judkins, who you presume is Andrew Berry referred to him as a bell cow type. So whether that is or not, you still have Jerome Ford and Sampson, who isn't the best pass protector, but has a lot of zip, a lot of speed, a lot of potential. Where does Sampson fit into this offense, do you think?
Well, I think he fits in. They're going to obviously you need a lot of backs in the NFL. I think Matt said it best. If you have lower leg injuries, those guys, there's only so much. If you think about a position that goes downhill quickly in terms of production, it's running backs. And when you see those guys in practice every day, it's just there's such big guys running into each other, and it's just wear and tear on that body. So obviously they're going to try to limit the touches for all the backs and kind of make sure they're fresh in the fourth quarter, second half of the season. It's a long season. So for me, what Sampson does, he gives you everybody thinks I don't really think it's a thunder and lightning or a speed and a slow guy. They're very similar skill sets. But what I think he does very, very well, if you go back to it's not the same style, but it's the same vision. If you go back to Le'Veon Bell, when he was with the Steelers, and he'd almost do that, like where he'd pause, and then go. Right. That tells me what he does. You hear the term quarterback friendly all the time, and receivers quarterback friendly. There's also running backs can be lineman friendly. And what I mean by that is he seems to understand the angles and what offensive linemen try to do on zone and gap schemes. So he really does a nice job of helping his offensive lineman, which in turn helps him. Now, when he gets in the open field, he's very, very explosive, but he does a really nice job of reading those blocks. And they do a great job at Tennessee of teaching those guys, if you're seeing an odd front, if you're seeing an even front, where are the linebackers? What are the responsibilities of the guys? What gaps are people in charge of? And you can help your linemen by pushing the edge and then putting your foot in the ground. And if you watch the Tennessee film, you're going to see lots of when he runs the ball, watch the second level. You're going to see these linemen just absolutely kill these linebackers. And that's because Sampson is setting him up properly with understanding what the linebacker job is first, and then what the job of his lineman in. And especially like on an inside zone, they're going to double team to the backer. Well, who's going to double team determines on where the back is and things like that. So I think Sampson has great burst. I think he'll be a guy. I think they got 3 new backs, and people are saying, why that? Because I think now it puts Jerome Ford in what he does best. He's a third down guy. A home run hitter. He's good on screens. You can split him out if you go empty on third down stuff. So I think what the problem was for me with Ford was they tried to make him that 1A back, and it kind of took away from what he does really best, which is third down stuff. So I think they've improved, threefold in the backfield. And now again, I'm a huge believer in Nick Chubb. Unfortunately, in the NFL, it's a brutal business, and those injuries really seem to hurt Nick Chubb. That when they took Sampson, that was kind of like the end of Nick Chubb, in my opinion. Now, I try to be like realistic, and the chances. I mean, you would like him to come back because everything that you guys have said about Chubb and when I was listening is true. And the thing that was awesome to me watching him practice for 3 years is that the guy thinks he's like fighting for a job. He's like the top, when he was healthy, he was like the top back. Every run, no matter where on the field, every run he takes to the end zone. Every drill, he's first in the drill. Every drill is done at 100 miles per hour. So he's a coach's dream. He's a fan's dream. Like everything that everybody says about Nick Chubb is exactly right. He's absolutely the best. As great a football player is, he's an even better human. So, you hope that, maybe, if not here, can he get to a spot where he can get some carries, because he's a really good person and obviously carried the load for a long time here in Cleveland.
Boy, it'd be nice if some way he could finish his career here, but looks a little dicey at this point. Lance, tremendous breakdown as always. Tell people where they can find all your great work and analysis.
I'm just on X and I'm on Instagram. It's just Lance Reisland, at Lance Reisland. Pretty simple. I listen to guys like you and learning and trying to give you some input on some guys that the Browns are going to have this fall.
Well, we love it, buddy. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you guys. See you guys.
All right. There he goes. Lance Reisland, high school football coach in Cleveland and contributor to Cleveland.com. Matt, my takeaways from this Browns draft, and I'll give a grade, and I want to get yours too. I'll give it a solid B, because I just can't get over Dillon Gabriel. I can't. If you took a safety, you might be getting an A- from me, or at least a B+. I can't get over the quarterback. However, you did improve stopping the run. Mason Graham helps that. Schlesinger helps that. That was a problem. You got better there. Mason Graham can penetrate and help Myles Garrett. That helps. Love the Fannin pick. Love the Judkins pick. Shedeur, I think if you just took Shedeur, I'd be fine with that. But overall, I'm going to give it a B. What do you think?
I'll concur. I'll go B. I think they filled some needs. They had some big needs going in. I don't think they filled enough of them, but I don't think they had the ability to do everything. I think doubling down on the running back was smart. Doubling down on quarterback was unique.
Not smart.
Typically see that. So especially on like end of day 2, day 3. So that I'm a little bit surprised by, but I'll give them a B for now, and then hopefully it turns into an A.
Yeah, I'm fine if you double down. Like if they took, Shedeur in the 3rd and then Dillon Gabriel in the 7th. All right, where you could have gotten Dillon Gabriel, by the way. But that concoction was weird. This isn't an RG3 Kirk Cousins comparison. RG3 was the 2nd overall pick. Cousins was a 4th round pick. Big difference. This is perplexing, and that quarterback room does confuse me. And Matt, to be honest, if Dillon Gabriel is at best 3rd string on this team, which I would be jaw on the floor, just beside myself, shocked if he wasn't. At best, likely practice squad. That's a 3rd round pick for a practice squad guy, or 3rd round. That makes no sense, and goes back to my fear that these guys are going to be picking the next quarter. What am I going to get in that? These guys are trip to number 1 for a. You know what? We should start scouting who's under 6 feet at quarterback, 6 feet or less next year, and start making a list, because that may be who we're getting.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of letting this regime make more picks, man. I wasn't.
They're going to, though.
Happy going in. I'm definitely not happy coming out.
They're going to. That's what. Like, we don't like it. The old, you don't like it, you have to accept it. The old Macho Man, right? Like it, but
100%. We're stuck with it. Good, bad, indifferent.
Good God. Well, we got some playmakers. We got some good players. We got better in spots. And it's, Matt, of one thing, it is always interesting. It is always interesting in Browns country, isn't it?
No question about it, buddy. That's why we have jobs, my friend.
That's why we do this. And now, by the way, before we let you go, I believe you wrote a day 3 article on this Browns draft. Is that right?
Yeah, there was a local young man from Northeast Ohio that I was able to catch up with, Branson Taylor. He ended up getting drafted by the Chargers in round 6. And it's a great story. He didn't start playing football till his junior year of high school, and now he's an NFL player. So he's had quite a journey, and good luck to him. Just a humble young man, and wish him nothing but the best.
Sweet. Where can people read that?
People can catch the link on my Twitter account. That's at Matt Florjancic.
Beautiful. All right, buddy. Well, hey, another Browns draft in the book. Next step, the workouts camp. We'll be following the very strange quarterback room and quarterback competition all the way through camp. We'll have you on again soon, my man. Always a pleasure.
Always fun, Andy. Looking forward to it. Have a good one, buddy.
All right, bud. Talk to you later. There he goes, Matt Florjancic, and big thanks to Lance Reisland as well. Yeah, I'm just that Dillon Gabriel pick, guys. I can't. That's just eating at me. That one's eating at me. I don't understand it. You can't tell me what other team was going to pick, and if they did, so what? Oh well. you're telling me that these front office guys, watch tape, watch Will Howard beat his ass. I don't care about all the production. So that's great. That's part of the story. I shouldn't say I don't care about it. That's part of the story, part of the situation. Does it translate to the National Football League? With this guy, the answer is no. I'll tell it right now. No. Doesn't. Like, I'll eat a football with a knife and fork if this guy is a superstar in the NFL. Come on. Mark it down. I'll put some stadium mustard on it right there. Stadium mustard on football. Eat part with a knife and fork. Take a bite. If this guy, Dillon Gabriel, is a star in the National Football League, it's just not, in my mind, feasible at all. And you took him with a 3rd-round pick when you could have had Lance Reisland listed off a couple guys. You could have had a nice safety, boom. Pop it in there. Nice rotation with Ronnie Hickman. Feeling good. Nope. So what are we going to get? You watch. They're going to sign a couple DBs, undrafted free agents, get a vet, and just patchwork it together. Quite confusing. But the positives. Quinshon Judkins, positive. Harold Fannin Jr., positive. Mason Graham, even though you want Travis Hunter, overall I think is positive. He's going to be a contributor. Sampson can be a contributor. Shedeur Sanders is going to have the chip of chips on his shoulder, and I think he's been humbled, and this is the guy now that he's a Cleveland Brown. Let's go, buddy. Andrew Berry said to it on the phone, nothing's been promised. Go get it. And I've said this whole draft process, I think Shedeur Sanders could be the best day one ready quarterback out of this rookie draft class. Highest floor, lowest ceiling. Doesn't mean he's going to be the best overall, but I think it's the best equipped for day one. I don't think he wins the job, but I do think we see him quite a bit. Maybe that's the guy. Maybe that can be the star, the hidden guy. Maybe that's our break. Get Shedeur Sanders going and being the future quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. It'd be an interesting story. All I know is it ain't going to be Dillon Gabriel and you waste a 3rd-round pick on him. Anyway, great job by Lance Reisland, as always, breaking down that film. Matt Florjancic, Cleveland sports writer, always fun having our buddy Matt on. Look, we'll keep tracking these workouts as the off-season programs go on. We'll be back with profiles. Fantasy football conversations going to be kicking up since the draft is gone, right? Those dynasty drafts, rookie drafts. We'll get into all of that throughout the offseason. So make sure you're clicking subscribe. Notifications on for the channel. Thank you, everybody, for following along on all the draft coverage. Follow on X at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81, Instagram at AndyMCSports. Always a pleasure to all of you. For producer Shane, I'm Andy McNamara. And as always, go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.